The series begins with Gi-hun at the airport. As he walks, he receives a call from someone, warning him that he should have gotten on the plane. Gi-hun warns the person on the other side that he will find them and storms out of the elevator. He hails a taxi and tells the driver he needs to get to Seoul. He stops at a convenience store and heads straight to the bathroom. He takes off his clothes and begins looking for a tracking device that might have been implanted on him. As he suspects, he finds one behind his ear. He grabs a knife and slashes his skin to remove the device, with tears smeared down his leg. Suddenly, a little boy enters and looks at him. Gi-hun apologizes and tells the kid he will be out shortly, asking him to give him some time. Meanwhile, Jun-ho actually survives and is now in the hospital. He starts to regain consciousness, and his mother calls his name when she sees his eyelids moving. Fast forward 2 years, and Jun-ho is now working. He stops 2 kids who are on a bike because the man is driving without a helmet. He takes his license and proceeds to give him the penalty. The woman gets off and approaches to compliment Jun-ho, asking to take pictures with him. After he gives the penalty paper, the man drives off, angry about his girlfriend's interest in Jun-ho. When Jun-ho turns, he sees his boss looking at him. They sit for a meal, but Jun-ho is bitter and sarcastic during the interaction. After he got shot previously, he left the Major Crimes Division, and unfortunately, all the evidence he gained was for nothing. His phone is gone, and there's no evidence of the Squid Game, the VIPs, or anything else. His boss reminds him of all this and asks if he remembers the person who shot him, but he doesn't. Back at his house, he sees a bullet scar on his shoulder and starts having a flashback of the shooting. The person in front of him takes off his mask to reveal his brother. Before he can process this, his brother shoots him.
형이 왜?
Gi-hun is at a motel. He has surveillance all over the place. Suddenly, his doorbell starts to ring, and shortly after, a car with his game number on it slides under the door. He opens it and sees the recruiter holding the heads of the previous players and starts shooting at him. But he wakes up, revealing that it was a dream. Afterward, he meets up with Mr. Kim, who updates him about their progress. He's desperate to find the recruiter, and has even sent a gangster like Mr. Kim and his associate Woo-sok to scour the subway for him. Even after 2 years, there's been no sign of the guy. Gi-hun doesn't give up and believes they need to expand their search. He wants more men, and of course, given money isn't an issue, Gi-hun happily pays. In fact, he even offers a 1 billion won reward for finding him. Mr. Kim leaves the motel and gets into the van that is waiting for him. He tells the people they must find the guy and mentions the 1 billion won reward, which encourages them to go strong on the task.
성공 보수로 10억을 더 준단다.
Jun-ho goes to a dock where the captain of a boat, Captain Park, is preparing his boat. When he sees Jun-ho, he gives him a life vest. Captain Park starts to remind Jun-ho of their failed attempt to find the mysterious island, saying this will also be the same kind of trip. Jun-ho, though, still has hope. He circles areas on the map, and they start the boat to search for the island again. The thugs get to work and launch a huge operation, gathering everybody they can to find the recruiter. They look for him everywhere, even ambushing normal citizens to search their bags and take pictures of them. But none of them are the person Gi-hun is looking for. At the same time, Jun-ho's trip in the water proves futile, and they can't find the island. There is a strong storm, and Captain Park complains about their wild goose chase. Jun-ho finally gives up and admits it was indeed futile. The search eventually bears fruit, and both Mr. Kim and Woo-seok find the recruiter at the subway station, playing Dodokji. They call Gi-hun, and he orders them to follow him. Kim himself finds him on the other side of the subway, and after getting his location, they follow him. The recruiter shows up at a homeless park, where he goads numerous people into choosing between a bread roll or a lottery ticket. Most pick the lottery, but none of them win. After this, he goes to the middle of the park and destroys the rolls in front of them. While Gi-hun races to the station, he gets stopped by cops. It's Jun-ho and his colleague. As he deals with them, the recruiter drives off. Mr. Kim gets a taxi and follows him. After getting a ticket for speeding, Gi-hun speeds away, but his colleague tells Jun-ho that the guy has different phones and tablets in his car. Meanwhile, Mr. Kim and Woo-seok follow the recruiter to an alley, only to get ambushed by him. At the same time, Jun-ho runs Gi-hun's plate number and sees his picture. He remembers their previous interaction. When Gi-hun arrives at the designated location, he finds blood and a knife. The recruiter has kidnapped and is torturing the two. He explains they will now play rock, paper, scissors. Whoever loses will have to play Russian roulette. During the game, Mr. Kim gets killed. And Woo-seok reveals where Gi-hun is staying. Jun-ho finds the office space rented by Gi-hun for the operation to find the recruiter and gets inside. He goes through the files and finds the motel Gi-hun is staying at. The recruiter goes to Gi-hun. Unfazed, Gi-hun tells him he wants to send a message to his superiors. He explains that the recruiter won't understand. However, the recruiter reveals his own story, including how he was faced with an impossible choice, his family or his job. The recruiter had to kill his own dad, but Gi-hun keeps looking at him with skepticism. He bitterly bitterly retorts how horrific the games were. The recruiter then says they should play a game, Russian roulette. Unbeknownst to them, Jun-ho is outside. They start playing the game, and eventually, the recruiter loses. Unfazed, he shoots himself. Hearing the gunshot, Jun-ho runs to the motel. Meanwhile, Gi-hun starts searching the recruiter's pockets to find anything that can help him locate his superiors. Jun-ho walks down the hallways and hears a muffled cry from one of the rooms. He rushes inside and finds Woo-seok tied and gagged. He asks where Gi-hun is, and Woo-seok tells him the room number. After searching the recruiter's pockets, Gi-hun finds a card. He takes it out to see it, and at this point, Jun-ho walks in on him with a gun in his hand. He tells Gi-hun to stay aside and starts searching for him. Jun-ho takes a gun from his pocket, and as he is about to arrest Gi-hun, Woo-seok comes and hits him from behind. Gi-hun, not trusting anyone, picks up the gun and points it at Woo-seok, but Woo-seok quickly explains that he works with Mr. Kim and tries to convince Gi-hun that he knows him. He then turns to see the dead body of the recruiter. He starts crying, saying that he killed his boss. Gi-hun, ignoring him, takes out the card he finds from the recruiter and reads it. On the paper, there is a location and a time. Club HDH, October 31st at midnight. A young woman called No Yul is sleeping in her car. She then hears a knocking on the door and gets up to find a guard. She explains that this is where she works and that she has an early shift tomorrow. He then tells her that she can't sleep in her car because it would cause problems with his superiors. She then reassures him that she will move her car tomorrow. Back in the motel, Gi-hun looks at Jun-ho's badge and remembers who it is. He recalls the time they met, and Jun-ho tells him that they also met on the island. He was disguised as one of the guards and asked about his brother. They start sharing what they know about the game, but Jun-ho doesn't reveal his brother's involvement in the game. Jun-ho, however, wants them to work together and find the VIPs. Hearing this, Woo-seok interrupts, saying they can't trust the cops.
No cops, please. Cops never do anything except harass us.
But Gi-hun finally lets Jun-ho free. The three of them then walk into another room where Gi-hun is keeping his pile of cash. Woo-seok realizes that what Gi-hun was saying is true. Gi-hun tells them that the money is blood money and that he is going to use it to get revenge on the people. Both Jun-ho and Woo-seok are determined. Jun-ho points out that they don't have enough weapons to face the armed people on the island, and Gi-hun shows them his gun collection. Gi-hun tells Woo-seok to gather a team that can work with them. He then takes them to another place across the wall where they can train shooting. He tells Jun-ho that if he is going to work with him, he must quit his current job. In an amusement park, there is an event being held. Different people wearing costumes are entertaining kids, giving them candy and dancing with them. No Yul is one of them, wearing a pink bunny costume. They all go to the changing room, and one kid follows them. The little girl gives No Yul a drawing she made for her, and as No Yul thanks her, the little girl sees a scar on No Yul's wrist. Another man in a costume enters and takes off his costume from his head, complaining about how hot it is. But when the little girl sees this, she cries, and her father comes to take her. After they leave, the man tells No Yul that the little girl has cancer and needs a bone marrow transplant. Somewhere else, Gi-hun is looking at Se-byok's little brother as he comes back from school and goes to his grandmother. He then goes to talk to a man who is helping him transport Se-byok from North Korea. She is currently sick, and it is not good to transport her in this state. Gi-hun then takes out a piece of paper from his pocket and gives it to the man. He tells him that it's the address where Se-byok's brother lives and tells him to contact this number if something happens to him. He then walks out of the office. At the same time, No Yul is also going up the stairs to the same office. No Yul escaped from North Korea and is now looking for her one-year-old child who is still left behind in her home country. She asks the man to look for her child one last time and offers a wad of cash, but the man tells her that even though they didn't find her body, it is likely that she is not alive and pushes the money back to her. Later that night, No Yul is once again in her van, looking at a family picture. She then takes a pill, and at that moment, someone knocks on her window. Assuming it's the guard, she tells him she will move, but the person calls her name. When she lowers her window, he hands her a card for the game and walks away. The next day, Jun-ho goes to his brother's wife's cemetery. His mother calls to tell him to look around in case his brother, In-ho, decides to show up since it's his wife's anniversary. Back at home, Jun-ho's mother realizes that Jun-ho's brother is gone, never to come back. She thinks that just because he is her stepson, he might think she doesn't like him. She reminds him of the time he gave his kidney to save Jun-ho. She also regrets that she didn't help In-ho's wife. Jun-ho realizes, saying he is tired of hearing this every day. In the amusement park, the little girl waits for the pink bunny and gets happy when she sees her. But the pink bunny passes by without giving her candy like the previous day. No Yul is not the one wearing the costume either. She is in her boss's office. She tells tells him that something has happened and she has to quit. As she walks out, she sees an ambulance taking the little girl away. She then walks and picks the beanie of the girl from the ground. Gi-hun gets a replacement tooth fixed with a tracker. Woo-seok pays the dentist well and warns him to stay silent. Meanwhile, No-eul goes to the hospital where the little girl is. Her health care is no longer covered by insurance, and her father is told he must pay for it. No-eul goes to the room where the little girl is, places the beanie on her, and then leaves. Gi-hun recruits some gangsters to join Woo-seok, determined to head to the club. Gi-hun gives them the order, and they go to the club. Gi-hun calls his daughter, but struggles to talk to her. No-eul calls the number on the card and registers for the game. She then burns the card along with the painting that was given to her by the little girl. At the entrance of the club, Junho, Gi-hun, and Woo-seok park their car, watching the people get in. It's Halloween, and everyone is wearing costumes. Gi-hun and Woo-seok head to the club while Junho waits in the car. Suddenly, Junho notices some masked men in pink jumpsuits at the club. He calls Woo-seok to tell him. In the crowded club, one of the people in pink jumpsuits tases Woo-seok and knocks him out. Then, they lead Gi-hun to a limo outside. Junho gets in and sees that Woo-seok is unconscious and Gi-hun is no longer in the club. He runs outside and sees the white limousine leaving. He then notifies the gang to follow it. Inside the limousine, the frontman speaks through a gold piggy bank speaker. Gi-hun demands that he stop the games completely, but the frontman retaliates, saying that they only created the game and the people choose to play it. He simply sees the game as trash elimination. The car tailing the limousine stops because the tire blows. There are also snipers on the rooftop shooting at the remaining cars, including Junho's. Realizing there's only one option left, Gi-hun asks to be put back in the games. After some hesitation, the frontman agrees and fills the limousine with smoke to knock Gi-hun unconscious. After Gi-hun is knocked out, the partition opens. The frontman is in the car and he turns to welcome Gi-hun to the game. In his car, Junho sees the tracker on Gi-hun and tells the others that Plan B is now activated. It turns out No-eul has been recruited not as a player, but as one of the foot soldiers. She takes an outfit from one of the 3 large trucks in an abandoned lot and prepares to join the games. Junho and Woo-seok, along with other men, are at the dock, loading Captain Park's boat. Junho then takes out the device to check if the tracker is still working, and it's still beeping with a red dot. Meanwhile, Gi-hun opens his eyes to find himself in a familiar place. He is wearing a uniform with 456 written on it. He gets up and sees other players as well. One player approaches and starts talking to him about helping him get rid of his karma. As they talk, the soldiers enter. One of them welcomes them and starts telling them about the game. They will play games for 6 days, and they will earn a lot of money for it. But some players start asking questions about why they were kidnapped and brought here, and why the guards are masked. The soldiers inform them that they can't disclose their identities or their superiors' identities. This doesn't stop the players from protesting, and the guards start revealing information about the players. One is a YouTuber known for scamming people, named Seong-gi. They continue to reveal more information, with some players even owing up to 10 billion won. The guard then tells them that they all have a lot of debt and can't afford to leave. He gives them one last chance to leave or stay, but no one left. The guard then explains the money they will receive by the end of the game. He presents the piggy bank and tells them they are getting a sum of 45.6 billion won. Hearing this, the participants are thrilled. He goes on to explain how they will divide the money after one game. Then he explains that they are offering a special deal they didn't offer before. After game 1, if the majority of the players vote to stop, the game will end and the money will be divided among them. Suddenly, Young-sik notices his mother and they start fighting, saying the others should leave and go home. They argue and fight, but they both stay.
Get out of here! Go! Hurry up!
What are you doing?
The guard then announces that they can sign a contract for the game. In the game, there are a bunch of players who are unhappy with Seong-gi because they've lost a lot of money following his advice. Among those are Nam-gyu and a purple-haired rapper called Thanos. Thanos confronts Seong-gi, but Nam-gyu stops it when they reach a physical altercation. Gi-hun also signs the contract. At the same time, Junho and the others are reaching the island. Captain Park demands to know what is going on, and Junho reveals that he found a player who has played the game before and is now being dragged back there. They have a tracker on him so they can track him and find the exact location. Back in the game, Game 1 is about to start. As their picture is about to be taken, everyone approaches Thanos to take pictures with him. The guards reveal that it is not allowed to use the camera in groups, so Thanos takes his picture alone. After the picture, Gi-hun gets called from behind and turns to see Jung-bae, Gi-hun's friend. He shockingly asks what he is doing there. They catch up on what has happened in their lives during the time they were not in contact. Gi-hun then tells Jung-bae to stay stay close to him and pay attention to everything if he wants to stay alive. Junho and the others get off the boat and use a drone to monitor the area. Back at the game, the players are taken to the field for the first game. They are told that the game is red light, green light. Back with Junho's group, they hike up the mountain and find a fisherman at the top. The tracker is exactly where it's supposed to be, but there is no Gi-hun.
What? Ah, shit. Hey!
At the same time, Gi-hun takes his teeth out and realizes that the tracker is not in his teeth. The group also figures out that the tracker is inside the fish bait and realizes that the game organizers are onto them. Gi-hun runs in front of the players and starts shouting, telling them that if they lose, they will get shot. But the players make fun of him, saying he is crazy. As he tries to convince them, the game begins, and he attempts to lead the game. Jung-bae tells Gi-hun to stop acting crazy because he is freaking people out, but Gi-hun continues to take the lead. Suddenly, a bee lands on one player, causing her to move. As a result, she is eliminated. Another woman screams because of the bee too, and she gets killed. The others panic and start running, only to get shot. Despite Gi-hun's pleas, people continue to run, and they get shot. One of the shooters, with a sniper, is No Yul. However, she spares a man who happens to be the little girl, Nayeon's father. Gi-hun tells everyone they will be killed if they don't cross the line in time and urges them to form a line to run. Following his instructions, the players continue to run. Thanos pushes a bunch of players, getting them killed. Gi-hun saves player 444 while he's down and out, bleeding, but No Yul breaks the rules and kills him while he's crossed the line. Junho, Woo Seok, and the others are in the boat, unsure of where to go. Woo Seok scolds the other men, thinking they have told someone, but the solution is nowhere near. The guards go to the players to congratulate them for surviving the first game. The players plead to be allowed to leave. Gi-hun announces they are going to vote, and if the majority votes in favor, they will all be allowed to leave. The guard agrees, but before they go, he announces the money they've accumulated. Hearing this, the promise of money manages to sway the masses. The voting begins, and the first to vote is Gi-hun, and he chooses to stop the game. Jong-dae, the man 10 billion won in debt, is not happy when Gi-hun tries to rally the people to stop. Others join them and accuse Gi-hun of being part of the guards. The players divide, with some supporting Gi-hun and others accusing him. Gi-hun finally announces that he has played the game before and is the only survivor. He tells them that everyone in this room will die. Thanos comes up with the idea that Gi-hun will help them win and that they should continue playing. Gi-hun continues to protest, but he is held at gunpoint, and the game continues. Finally, the vote ends in a tie, and player number 1 chooses to continue the game. When player number 1 turns, it is revealed to be the frontman, In-ho. The soldiers are carting the coffins of the deceased for organ harvesting and, subsequently, to the incinerator. Back in the players' room, they are given food, and everyone enjoys it except Gi-hun. Jung-bae tries to make him eat and jokes around, but Gi-hun is not in the mood. Player number 1, In-ho, and the others approach Gi-hun and ask him to help them. They ask what the next game is, and Gi-hun explains the upcoming game.
달고나 뽑기였어요.
Young-sik's mother approaches another woman, Jun-hee. She notices that Jun-hee is pregnant and gives her food. She then tells her that she shouldn't compress her belly, as it will only hurt her and the baby. In-ho asks why Gi-hun came back, and Gi-hun explains that the money is blood money and doesn't belong to him. He confronts In-ho, saying he should have saved everyone if he had pressed the O button. Jung-bae stops their argument. Another player named Kang Dae-ho joins in, appreciating Gi-hun's effort during the first game. Suddenly, Jung-bae notices that Kang Dae-ho has a marine tattoo, and they start to get along pretty well. At the same time, Thanos and Nam-gyu continue to bully Myung-gi. They spill his food, and he gets up angrily to fight. Two of them start beating him, but In-ho interrupts, telling them to stop. When they don't listen, he jumps into the fight and beats both of them. Later that night, In-ho comes to where Gi-hun is and starts telling him his story. His wife got sick, and he had to take out multiple loans. He makes up different stories to make Gi-hun sympathize with him. Meanwhile, in the surgery room, the organ harvesters are struggling to get parts from the dead bodies. There aren't many organs left. A lot of them have been deemed unsalvageable because they've been shot numerous times. The soldiers try to shoot carefully to avoid destroying the organs, but No Yul shoots everyone. This is reported to the head, and No Yul is called in. The head of the guards brings up how they've known each other for about 7 years, and he's unclear why she's defying him now. She thanks him for what he did for her before, but now she is doing what she's told to do. He asks if she is scared that the bosses will find out about their operation, but she is not worried about that. She asks to leave. Meanwhile, Junho returns to Seoul Station and desperately seeks help. However, without evidence, his efforts prove futile. He realizes that he has to find another way to get assistance. He calls Woo-seok and tells him that he can't get help from the station. After hanging up, Woo-seok goes to Captain Park. He then tells Captain Park everything about the game, the island, and the people they are dealing with. Back at the games, Jun-hee speaks to Myung-gi. Apparently, he is the father of her child. He is shocked and asks how she expects to raise a kid without money, but she ignores him and goes to get ready for the second game.